My name is Nain Villanueva de Lopez, and my story with BACR goes back 20 years ago when I was an AmeriCorps member, and then I was a community resource specialist at the West County First Five Center. I think the first skills I learned at BACR were to work with diverse community. So I have been in this country for like 2-3 years when I first started working with BACR in Oakland and working with children with diverse communities, with different backgrounds, with different languages, getting to understand their needs and their priorities, and that every community has different priorities. I think that was a big skill. Yeah, also, so when I was working as a community resource specialist for the First Five Center, I was trained in the P program, which is the Positive Parenting Program. It is a positive discipline for children, for parents with children 0 to 12 years old. So that was my first approach to parenting classes. And I started teaching them in both English and Spanish. And so that became really important for me, and it's an important path in my career right now. So after that, I also got trained on the P to work with parents with children who are teenagers, and then also to work with parents who are separated or divorced and want to still have good communication for the well-being of the kids. After BACR, I got trained on other levels of positive parenting, who have been very, very important. Yes, so I became a psychologist because just before I went to college, I was working at a daycare center, and I was observing the kids and how they learn and how they evolve and how they're different. So I'm like, oh, I want to be a psychologist and I want to work with children. And so I got to start working with children. And then I started working with educators. After AmeriCorps, I was working for an early childhood education program for Catholic Charities of the East Bay, and I was overseeing the program for the educators. So then I was like, oh, so if we want to work with children and want to support the children and help them develop better, we need to start working with the adults. And so that's when I found my passion. I want to work with the adults who are supporting the children. So I came to BACR, and that's exactly what I was doing at the First Five Center. I was the resource specialist, so I was doing one-on-one with the parents. I was doing parenting classes, installing car seats, doing developmental screenings, and then with those developmental screenings also provide like a plan for the parents on like how to support their kids on not only their development, but emotionally, and how to interact with them and read to them. So that's where I was like, oh, so this is what I really want to do and make an impact. I was at the First Five Center for almost 6 years with a wonderful team. They're still my friends. I still see them here and there. We go have a drink, have a talk. We call each other when we are on like having hard times or really exciting news, and we share it with each other. But there came a point when I wanted a little bit more than what I was doing. I wanted to make a bigger impact, and I also really wanted to work with programs that had to do with parenting education. So I went on to a different role, managing a program that was overseeing parenting education within Contra Costa. And then after that, during the pandemic, my own younger child, who was a teenager, she's still a teenager, was suffering from anxiety and wasn't doing really well at school. So I realized I wasn't practicing what I was preaching, which is dedicating time to your children. So just like every time in my life, I asked God and the universe to guide me, and I didn't even have to look at different position, just came to me, to my email, on a blast email to the community to work for who I work right now, which is Tandem Partners in Early Learning. for a position overseeing an early literacy program within Contra Costa. And most of the programs that I work with were people who I have worked with from First Five, before that, from BACR, so people who has known me in the community because I have worked. Yes, so also 2 years ago when I went on to oversee the early literacy programs at Tandem, I was very, very excited to what we do. Our flag program is a book rotation program within the county. We oversee more than 200 classrooms, and it's very exciting and it's really good and it's flexible enough that I can dedicate time to my child. I say to my child, even though I have two, because the older one is now in college. So the one that needs me the most is the younger one. But on the other hand, I have all this knowledge. I have been trained of all these levels of positive parenting, and I have all these contacts also. And I know there was the need in the community, especially for the Latino community, to reach out to them and offer these parenting classes. Unfortunately, a lot goes under the water without being noticed on the support that the families need. And I knew that if I reach out to these communities, they will be happy to start doing the programs. So it wasn't only me, it wasn't only my idea. Just 3 weeks after my new position, one of my ex-coworkers called me and said, we have the info and we have the knowledge, we have to do something. And then another one did too. And then the third one was like, have you ever thought about opening a nonprofit? I say, that's my dream, but when my kids are older. So your kids are older. So July 1st, 24, we open our virtual doors. It's called Families Empower and Transform. FEED are the initials. And with the goal to serve 350 families with positive parenting education, anger management, domestic violence, supporting father involvement, and our very own curriculum, which is the teen mentoring program. I say ours, but it was created by Pamela Ortiz, who's our social worker. And with just the support of the community, we introduced ourselves to the social workers, to the community we knew from our previous jobs, and we were very, very welcome. And the first year we served 613 families. With referrals, with donations, with just working with our hearts and from our homes. So one thing led to another. So working first, the first job at BACR walked me into the door of the nonprofit. I have not worked in the nonprofit before. So I'm like, oh, this is where I want to be, within the nonprofit sector. And then the next door was, so that was first when I was an AmeriCorps member. Then when I was overseeing the AmeriCorps members, I'm like, oh, okay, it's not with the children, it's with the parents. And so that led to the position at Catholic Charities with the educators. Like, oh, so it's within the early childhood education. That's where I want to be. And so that led to work at the West County First Five Center, which is also my first home, because my second home, because my kids were part of it since they were born. It's their second home. They pretty much grew up there, first participating. Then when I was working there, they will spend afternoons in there, or I was doing a class and they were in there too. So they know the staff really well in the center. We pass by it every day, 7 blocks from my home. And then from there came the Triple P, which is a positive parenting program. So I was trained by BACR on those first 2 levels. And that's where I was like, so this is exactly what I want to be. And this is exactly where I want to make an impact, because I have seen the changes in the families and in the behaviors of the children and the behavior of the adults who are guiding the kids. I've seen the changes on my own kids. So that's where I was like, okay, I need to move from here. I need to grow And I do remember when I mentioned to Alexina Rojas that I was leaving First Five, we cried together, the staff and me. Like, I'm very happy. I really like the organization. But work has to be like going to school. You have to graduate and go into the next level. I remember also saying that to my kids when they were like, wait, you're leaving First Five? And you love everybody. And like, yeah, but I have to go into the next level. I had to graduate. And similar happened 2 years ago when I came to Tandem, and they're like, what? Again? And I'm like, yes, I already went through middle school. I'm going to high school. I think one of the things is I always accepted trainings. So when they offer you a training, sometimes I see staff thinking about that as it's taking time away from my regular work, is driving somewhere else if the training happens to be in another county. My work will get piled up because I'm doing this, but it's not a waste of time. Any training. I also did reflective practices and motivational interviewing, and some of these were just offered, do you want to do it? And some of these were, you have to do it, it's part of your job. I will say to go into those trainings with intention, with the intention that you're growing from it, you're learning from it, and replicate it and try to use it also. Just like words, as you can tell, English is not my first language. So I learned a new word, and I'm like, I'm gonna intentionally use it. Serendipity. What does that mean? It's like, oh yeah, in a serendipity of events, I came to grow from BACR. Use it intentionally. And come back to those trainings when you're like, oh, I remember I was training this and that. Because it will build your curriculum, but it will also build your personal skills. I was working for BACR when I was pregnant, and Alexina was already overseeing the First Five Center, but the First Five Center was not open. The classes were being done at the Nain Center. So her office was at the Pierce Street office. And I overheard her saying something in Spanish. She was translating a flyer. And I'm like, oh, that's not the right word to use. Should I say something? She doesn't even know me. So I'm like, I had to say something. So I was like, hey, can I say something? I don't even remember the word. I think if you use this word, it will be better. I'm like, oh yeah, thank you. Can I ask you more questions? Yes, you can. You're pregnant. I'm like, yes, I am. Well, you should come to classes for us. So we're right now at the Nain Center. We're gonna open a center. Sure enough, we started doing classes at the Nain Center, and then very soon we went to the First Five Center. My husband was taking my first child to an infant massage class, and I was working at BACR. And so this one day he's like, you know what? I can't take her today because our dog got sick and I have to take him to the vet. Can you take her? I'm like, oh, okay. Let me get out. I show up at the First Five Center, and they're like, oh no, you have to re-register for the class before. I'm like, no, she is registered. Her and my husband are registered, and everybody's like, oh, she's dad's girl. Like, oh, you're popular there. Yeah, because I'm the only male in there. I'm the only dad. So that actually brought something else, which is, one, I had a father who was very present. And then I realized everybody should have a father who's very present. So something I strive in my current job and in my nonprofit too is to provide programs for fathers and to support father involvement, because I think that is very, very important. And that's something that I saw at the First Five Center, not only with my family, but how we always try to involve the fathers and bring the fathers into the picture, because they don't have that many opportunities as the mothers have. And we also, sometimes mothers, we are the gatekeepers. So I got married at Chicano and moved to this country. I have studied psychology back in my country, but over there, you just don't finish and get your degree. You have to do your research and present a thesis, and then present it in front of a panel. And that I was not done. So I got married, I finished my research over here and went and presented 2 years after, and then came back. And my husband's cousin, Judith Ortiz, who was working at BACR, was like, "What are you doing now that you have your degree? You should work for AmeriCorps." What is that? And so I applied, and I did after-school program at Fruitvale Elementary for a year, working with a very diverse group of kids, not only helping with homework, but doing different activities. That was actually in connection with Lao Family Community Resources, so there were a lot of Asian children as well. We got to do from Filipino paroles to piñatas to many things, and field trips to them as well. And then after that, I was offered to be a supervisor for the AmeriCorps members in Oakland. That was really fun, actually, going back to your question of like, what's a funny story? I used to get lost all the time because there was no Google Maps. We're talking about 20 years ago. So stop by and ask, where am I going? And just get lost around Oakland. And just a few years later, we were going for lunch with my husband. And I say, well, if you take this street instead of that one, it will be faster to go. And he's like, you're not giving me directions in Oakland. I was born here. I work in the area. I got there, I park, I'm waiting in the restaurant, and he's like, how you got this so fast? I told you take that street, it will be faster. I work in the area. I have gotten lost enough that I know now. But then I'm the real. Yes, so it was 30-something children from different backgrounds, from African Americans to Latinos to Asian kids. And so I had to start learning how they have different priorities, they have different stories, different points of views. But also when I was overseeing the AmeriCorps members who were younger people, most of them coming right out of high school, and see the way they work was really different than what I did. The needs for each one of them was different. So that's something that I try to implement now when of the staff that I'm overseeing. It's like, not everybody's different. I mean, not everybody's the same. They're all different. They will have different needs and different priorities. Also, everybody works at their own pace at the same time. If I'm overseeing or auditing a parenting class, for example, I know that not everybody has my facilitation skills. Not everybody will make jokes. I like to, but that's just my style. One time when I was at the First Five Center, one of the parents came and said, can I ask you, are you all volunteers? And I'm like, no, we're all paid employees. I've always thought you will just volunteer your work because you always seem to be enjoying your work, all the stuff. Like, no, we do enjoy what we do. We honestly do. And you get along well. We do. We honestly do. Oh, that's fun. I'm like, yeah, it is fun. So it makes it fun. I think at BACR, I saw that camaraderie and passion, and like people was very invested in what they were doing, but also the agency taking care of their staff. Well, the relationship with the staff at the West County First Five Center, they're still my friends. I still go to them when I have some really good news or something sad. We still get together for lunch here and there. That's something I'm proud of. We piloted a leadership program when I was at First Five, in which the parents will lead some workshops or will lead some activities. So that's something I'm very proud of because I was very involved in like one parent show other parents how to knit. One parent show other parents how to cook. They were also part of like a cohort of reading and how to read to their kids. There is a group of parents and kids that I see because they were my group of parents and kids. We took a class together or several classes together when we have our first children. And we used to have a Facebook group that was called the First 5 Moms because we were 5. We started with 5, then we added some more moms. Then most of us have our second child. And so if it was one of the children's birthday, we'll just get together at somebody's house and you have 10 kids right there. We still see each other. These kids went to college already. Mine was the last one to go just this summer. Everybody else is already at college. And I always feel like I was either very fortunate or I was chosen by them to be part of their group because they're all wonderful leaders in the community. They're parents who are very involved, who have gone into work or volunteer or in different capacities within the school district, the nonprofit organization, started their own jobs, very, very involved. So I'm like, is that something that the West County First 5 gave us or we came with it? I don't know, but I think I was fortunate for that. So yes, I can tell you where they're going to school, so, like in Oregon and San Diego and in San Jose State. And mine is the one who's in Pennsylvania.